to CPAC Now, America Uncanceled with the Schlaps. And today we're going to be honing in, talking about the crisis on the border. Obviously, this is an issue that is exploding. We've got serious problems, and you're even seeing the Democrats saying that Joe Biden and his administration is not moving fast enough. So what did they do, Matt, today? Well, they held a press conference. Yes, of course, Joe Biden, we weren't sure where he was at. I think he was lost at a store. But at the White House press conference, there was Roberta Jacobson, who is the coordinator for the southern border, and she answered some of the reporters' questions. Or did she?
And including in Spanish.
Oh, that I actually think that was pretty cool.
Unless the message is, once again,
Abre la frontera!
Exactly.
Abre
It's
la
not
frontera.
enforcement, it's like a welcome mat.
Do you know what abre la frontera means?
Yes, open the front door.
Come on border.
In. Yeah. Oh, la frontera is border?
Yes.
Okay, I learned something.
Yes. But what we want is seguridad en la frontera, which is border security.
That's right.
That is critical, and that is what we need to be pushing for. However, I don't think Roberta got the message. When she was asked about whether the Trump administration really did focus on stopping illegal immigration, what has the Biden administration done to stop border crossings? Let's watch that clip on Roberta when she answers this question.
Madam Ambassador, do you think it's a coincidence that as soon as Trump and his immigration policy were on the way out and Biden and his stated policy were on the way in, this historic surge at the border started?
Well, first of all, one of the things I think is important is we've seen surges before. Surges tend to respond to hope. And there was a significant hope for a more humane policy after 4 years of pent-up demand. So I don't know whether I would call that a coincidence, but I certainly think that the idea that a more humane policy would be in place may have driven people to make that decision.
Hope, Matthew. Roberta talks about hope at the border. Is that hope and change like Obama's?
When you have criminal law breaking at the border, which is what this is, these are crimes. She's basically saying people had the hope to be allowed to commit more crimes. It's really important for us to understand that if we allow this chaos at the border, kids actually get harmed. People die, right? This is the wrong way to do immigration policy. So you literally have the person that's in charge of the southern border for Joe Biden saying it was cruel to enforce our border. Now we're not going to enforce our border, and it'll give illegal immigrants hope that they can come here illegally and come into the interior of the country. I mean, that's exactly the wrong message.
It is, and we actually saw the Mexican government's reaction to the fact that now they're very concerned with Biden administration's immigration policies.
Because they're all going to be in Mexico.
Because they're incentivizing illegal immigration and organized crime. And guess what Roberta mentioned in the press conference? She talked about that literally placing the blame of seeing this surge happen on the smugglers. And the reality is that when you have a tough immigration policy like we did under President Trump, it would scare off the smugglers, scare off the drug cartels. We had greater coordination with Mexico and the Northern Triangle countries. And what we're seeing now in terms of Joe Biden's weak response in literally sending what we call mixed messages, that of hope, that of saying, let's increase these avenues of legal immigration, that is going to lead to an even larger surge of those individuals crossing the border illegally. But let's go to a second clip from today's press conference. This is where this advisor, she basically refuses to acknowledge that there is a border crisis. She basically says, whatever you call it. So let's listen in.
To come, just to follow up quickly, you're telling them they should not come. Would you describe what's happening on the border as a crisis, given how these numbers are spiking so much week by week?
I think I'm not trying to be cute here, but I think the fact of the matter is we have to do what we do regardless of what anybody calls the situation. And the fact is we are all focused on improving the situation, on changing to a more humane and efficient system, and whatever you call it wouldn't change what we're doing, because we have urgency from the president on down to fix our system and make sure that we are better at dealing with the hopes and the dreams of these migrants in their home country.
Okay, Matt, let me get your reaction to this particular.
This is word salad. This is like a word game that they're playing. They don't want to call it the crisis that it is. They don't want to acknowledge the fact that we have maybe 5 times bigger numbers than we've ever seen in a decade. This is worse than all the months of caravans and everything else that happened under the Trump administration, where CNN and the New York Times called this a humanitarian crisis. A humanitarian crisis. These numbers are bigger, folks. And all of a sudden, it's not a humanitarian crisis. And yesterday in the press briefing room, they talked about the dog. Major the dog the whole time.
Right.
Like, this crisis is going on every moment of every day, and the press corps better get serious, because Democrats in Arizona and Texas are furious at what's happening to their communities. This is going to be a huge political problem for the Biden administration if they don't get on top of it. And it starts with saying, no mas, don't come to our country this way.
Right. There's a legal way to come into America, and we have to stop illegal immigration in the United States, especially when we're dealing with a global pandemic that's
right.
impacting our country. But I want you all to stay with us. We have an exclusive interview with the former acting Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, Chad Wolf. So stay with us.
It's going to be great.
Well, I have an impressive guest joining us today. We really wanted to talk about something that is important to all of us, which is valuing our American citizenship. The fact that, I know as a daughter of immigrants, my father came from Cuba, my mother also came from Cuba. They fled political persecution, and, they came legally to our country, and we treasure that. We treasure those who get in line, follow the process to be able to come and live here in America and seek that opportunity. But in certain states, like Arizona, like Texas, we find that there is chaos at the border, especially now as we see a new administration come in and on a bullhorn basically say, come on in, it's an open border system. And so what we want to...
This is CPAC Now, America Uncanceled, and we are focused on the crisis on the border, and it's been getting worse hour by hour. And joining us right now is a very special guest, our former acting Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, Chad Wolf. Thank you for being with us.
Well, it's great to see you guys again.
Chad, we're watching what's happening at the border. It just seems like chaos. And it seems like the Biden administration doesn't have a clue on how to handle the border. You've done this. What is going on? Give us a 1-minute synopsis of what's going on at the border.
Sure. I think what we see at the border today is a result of really the policies and the executive orders and the actions that President Biden and his team have taken since Inauguration Day. So when we left the Trump administration, we had one of the most secure borders that we have seen in quite some time, a number of policies and procedures to address the continuous flow that we would see there. Since Inauguration Day, most of those have been taken away, and they have replaced that essentially with the catch and release, the failed catch and release policy that we saw about four years ago. So what you see today is in the month of February, you had over 100,000 illegal border crossings or apprehensions, which is an all-time high for February, probably the highest February that we've seen in more than 10 years, a decade or more. Those numbers are likely going to increase as you get into March, April, May, and June, which are the high traffic months historically. Right. So you're going to see these numbers continue to spiral out of control until the Biden administration decides to get serious about enforcement and enforcing the rule of law and immigration law. And until they decide to do that, you're going to continue to see this crisis unfold.
So you watched the press conference earlier today at the White House with Roberta Jacobson, who's the coordinator for the southern border. I want to get your reaction to her comments, especially when she talked about the difficulty that they're having dealing with the mixed messaging.
So messaging in this case is always difficult. We certainly found that out over the past several years, but their messaging, the Biden administration right now's messaging, as far as I can tell, is you can come, but don't come now, which is an extremely dangerous message. They talk about bringing humanity back to the immigration system. There is nothing humane about basically forecasting and telling Central American family units, children, and others that you can come to the border, that you should make a dangerous 2,000-mile journey, put your life in the hands of smugglers and and cartels and traffickers, and to do that because if you come, we'll let you into the U.S. We had the exact opposite message, where you saw historically low numbers of illegal migration. And unfortunately, we have the exact opposite today. So I think they are struggling with their messaging. And I would say at the end of the day, a lot of these migrants don't listen to U.S. officials, don't even listen to their own officials in their country. Who they listen to are those friends and family members who make that dangerous journey. And if they get into the U.S. and they phone them back and they make a phone call back, and they say, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, that's what they listen to, and that's the message that's being sent today.
It's just a phone call away. If you think about it, they call other people that want to come to this country. The message out of the Biden administration is come on over to America. As you said, there'll be a humanitarian approach. This woman said, we're going to find all kinds of additional legal ways for you to be here.
That's right.
You're going to get Obamacare. You're going to get benefits. Don't worry about this idea that you're going to be sitting in a prison cell, even if you're a criminal, because they're going to be welcoming centers, whatever that means. This is a magnet for more illegal immigration.
Well, and if they're saying, we were talking about this, it's a bit of a muddled message because it's saying the border is closed. This is what they're saying. But at the same time, they're saying, wait. We're going to have a lot more legal avenues for you to come in terms of legal migration. Now, you dealt with this asylum issue time and time again. And remember, they had a fast track. They had these little lines that they had to say in order to get asylum. What do you think the Biden administration is going to do, I think, in terms of increasing these avenues for legal migration, as they call it?
Well, I think it's important to remember when we talk about asylum is for individuals that are being persecuted, or at least for individuals who believe they are being persecuted. But what we know, and the numbers tell us, Department of Justice facts, as well as the Department of Homeland Security information tells us that only about 10% of those individuals coming across claiming asylum actually receive that benefit at the end of the day. And so what that means is 90% usually want to come here for economic reasons or to rejoin their family, which are legitimate reasons, but that's not asylum. And so you can't claim asylum wanting a job. And so as they go through the court system, they are kicked out and they should be removed. Now, what the Biden administration is doing is they have a policy in place, knowing these facts, knowing that 90% don't qualify for asylum, yet they're going to continue to facilitate a process that allows these individuals to come into the country. And what we know is when they do come into the country, they don't show up for their court proceedings. And when they are ordered to be removed by an immigration judge, they don't leave. So the Department of Homeland Security will tell you that. DOJ will tell you that. The facts back that up. And so the question becomes, why are they doing this? At the end of the day, why are they making the communities less safe? Why are they doing this in the middle of a COVID pandemic? A number of these migrants, reports have indicated, are testing positive for COVID and being bussed around the country. So a lot of dangerous things occurring on the border today.
And we have a lot of Democrats in Texas, Congressman Henry Cuellar, Democrats in these other border states who are saying, wait a minute, this chaos, having people come in and having them resettled in these states, we don't know anything about these folks, is a very dangerous thing. The final question, Chad, how bad could this get when you have an administration that's basically not engaged in enforcement at all?
Well, a couple of points. I would say to Congressman Cuellar and others on the border, they're making these statements, Matt, because they are living it firsthand. You know, we have a lot of policymakers back in D.C. that have never been to the border, or they've been on a one-day CODEL to the border, which is not really understanding the border. So folks down on the border, you have Democratic mayors, obviously Democratic congressmen down there, who do not like what's going on because they see the impact on their communities from a public safety perspective, as well as a public health perspective. And so they're very concerned. But to really answer your second part of your question, there is no end in sight. The only way that you end a crisis like this is to have strong enforcement, a strong deterrent message, and not let these individuals in. And as long as we keep funding reception centers, as long as we keep allowing these individuals to come in and remain here in the U.S., you're going to continue to see the numbers increase. So my projection is over the next 3 to 4 months, you're going to see well over 100,000 folks being apprehended per month by the Border Patrol.
Well, the first step, obviously, is for the Biden administration to even admit that there is a crisis on the border. Let's be real. But Chad Wolf, our former acting secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, thank you for joining us.
And thank you for all you did for your country and for putting up with a lot of crap for doing the right thing. And now we're watching Biden separate families and put kids in cages and all these other policies that they tried to mock you and others for, they now find themselves that the border is the border, and it's got to deal with the facts on the ground. Even the Biden administration has to do that. Thank you, Acting Secretary Chad Wolf.
All right, thanks, guys.
You will always get the best guests on CPAC Now. Great to hear from former Acting Secretary Chad Wolf, who you worked closely with.
I did.
In the Trump administration, is a great friend, but more than anything else, he lived that border. Every day he had that job.
And
it's a tough thing to get.
It is actually one of the toughest jobs in the administration by far, since we had several secretaries that had that job at one point. But where Chad Wolf was so successful is that he understood what the president's vision was. And that was clearly that we had to focus on building the wall, because guess what? The walls work, right? Because Nancy knows that we got to put a fence up out in the Capitol, but they're willing to tear down the wall at the border.
It's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. And that's why you saw Joe Biden make that decision to stop border wall funding. And it's disgraceful because it puts a lot more pressure on the Border Patrol agents who are there day in and day out, patrolling the area, making sure that they have control of the border. And right now what you're seeing is that these border agents, they're being overwhelmed, and the states like Texas are not receiving the help they need at the federal level.
So you have this phoniness to the southern border under Joe Biden. Like, they're not really enforcing the laws as they should. They're certainly not having real diplomacy to tell these countries, stop allowing your people to come forward. It's the same phoniness with this wall around the Capitol. It's big, it's ominous, but the National Guard's troops who are there have magazines that they don't even have clips. They're not, essentially they're not armed. So this is the silliness and the phoniness of this Biden-Pelosi approach to things. If you want to get serious about the border, start strictly following the laws and have consequences to these countries to allow these people to come.
But shifting gears, apparently Piers Morgan got canceled.
Good.
I'm hearing that he's part of the cancel culture right now,
Good.
right? He walked off the show after making comments on.
So what happens in the UK? People
Meghan?
can just they can call a government agency and make complaints about you, and if you get enough complaints, you actually can lose your job. It sounds like they don't even have freedom of the press over there.
Well, apparently they have British tabloids, and that's the way
Yeah.
they get news. So we complain about our media, but I think the British media might be a little sassier than the American media.
Well, I mean, how do you not criticize Meghan Markle? I mean, this is like.
Well, Beyonce came out and said, she basically applauded Meghan and said how courageous she was.
Now,
So I think this
who is
might
Beyonce?
Be, oh, schlop.
I'm just kidding.
Old.
No, but all these people that are opining, like, do we really care about what they think? The fact is, it's pretty simple with these two entitled young people, and I can say young because they are much younger. Henry Windsor and his wife Meghan, or Harry. They got a $13 million wedding paid for by the Queen.
No, it was 32
and after,
euros. 32 million euros. Stop your
okay, so that's
behind
like
the times.
that's like 60 million American dollars. They can get a wedding like that, and after the wedding is paid for, and they got lots of cool gifts, then all of a sudden they start getting very woke about their irresponsible family members. Great timing, guys. Way to go.
For the record, our wedding was super cheap, okay? Like,
your father. Have you met your father? Yeah, it was pretty cheap.
Have I met my husband? Yes, super cheap.
He said, the first Spanish I learned was something a punto. And that meant, I am not inviting another friend, no matter what you say, that's the list and it's over, right?
But look, 18 years later, almost 19, not
Yeah,
so bad.
we're not
So
doing
we'll
so
see
bad.
if Prince Harry and Meghan can make it.
We actually hope
through
they
this
make
scandal.
it. We actually hope they make it. But the worst place for a marriage to make it, Hollywood, not a good place to start. I don't know if any marriage actually makes it in Hollywood.
I know a
Go
marriage.
to Kansas, Harry. Go to Kansas. Much better. Much better.
But one marriage that we know is so strong and fabulous, and we're celebrating the birth of their third child, is Ian and Karen Walters. They are the heart and soul of CPAC. Okay, people don't realize these are the unsung heroes. Karen organizes and is in charge of all of us and the whole event. And Ian is just one of the most amazing communications directors I've ever worked with, someone who has a passion for understanding and facing the tough media that we experience here at ACU.
They're
so
great.
we want to congratulate
But we're a little
them.
mad at them because the one thing about Ian and Karen is they're bad schedulers. And they decided to have their third child named after Ian's father, the great Ralph Hallow, who we lost this year really sadly. and they decided to schedule this baby for during CPAC. So I'm trying to get over the fact that I'm mad at them for not being at CPAC, but I can understand their priorities.
Well,
they wanted to have the baby.
Yes. Well, we are so excited to welcome Blaze into our CPAC family, and we pray for that beautiful family who we love so much and do so much for all of us here at American Conservative Union.
Good luck, guys. We're really proud of you. We're happy for you. It was a great CPAC even without you.
We
Would have been
barely
better.
survived. Barely.
It would have been
Barely.
better if you were there. But you know, what's going on in the country, Mercy, is I know people are worried, and they're wondering if we've kind of lost America, if it's kind of slipping away through our fingers. And I would say the one thing we'd like to leave you with after coming back from CPAC, where thousands of people came from around the country to assemble in Florida because it's open for business. By the way, during CPAC, a bunch of other states opened: Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Oklahoma. There's this trend.
Schlapp wants to
States
move,
are
I'm telling
opening
you.
up,
He's-
and they're saying we can live with this virus and still have an open economy. The one thing we leave you with is people were so happy to be together. People need to be together. So have courage. Get out of that house. Get out in the sunshine. It's good vitamin D anyway. And let's take our country back. And let's be hopeful about the future, because I think we still can hold on to this great experiment in democracy, America. Thanks
you.
for being with us on CPAC now.
Thank you, Dr. Schlapp.
Yeah.
We appreciate your words.
I don't know how to take it.
Bye-bye.